Life in North Korea is, well, a carefully constructed reality. The state controls everything. It dictates what you learn, what you believe, and even what you're allowed to say. From the moment a child is born, they're taught to worship the Kim family. The leaders are presented not as mere politicians, but as divine figures. Their portraits hang in every home, every school, and every public building. To fail to show proper respect isn't just a social mistake. It's a crime against the state. This constant surveillance creates a society built on a foundation of deep, pervasive fear. People learn early to whisper, to trust no one, and to hide their true thoughts behind a mask of unwavering loyalty. The government's control extends into the most basic aspects of daily existence. The public distribution system, or PDS, rations food to the population. This system is, honestly, a powerful tool of control. Loyalty is rewarded with slightly more food, while any hint of dissent can mean starvation for an entire family. Information, too, is tightly controlled. There's no internet for the average citizen. Radios are fixed to state-run channels broadcasting a steady stream of propaganda. The news from the outside world is a forbidden secret. People live in an information vacuum, where the state's version of history and current events is the only one they know. This isolation makes it difficult for them to even imagine a different way of life. Every citizen is categorized by their songbun, a system of social classification. This system is based on the perceived loyalty of one's ancestors to the regime. Those with a good songbun, descendants of revolutionary fighters, for example, get access to better jobs, housing, and education in Pyongyang. Those with a bad songbun, maybe with relatives who fled to South Korea during the war, are relegated to the poorest provinces and the hardest labor. This hereditary caste system ensures that punishment and privilege are passed down through generations. It's a life sentence determined before you're even born, a permanent brand that dictates the boundaries of your entire life. Fear is the invisible wall that surrounds every North Korean. Neighbors are encouraged to spy on neighbors. Children are taught to report on their parents if they hear them say anything disloyal. The Inminban, or neighborhood watch units, monitor every household's activities. This constant suspicion destroys trust in community, replacing it with a collective paranoia. People live with the knowledge that a single wrong word, a misplaced complaint about the lack of food, or a moment of perceived disrespect could lead to their disappearance. They could be taken away in the night, sent to a political prison camp from which they might never return. This is the daily reality of life under the Kim regime. Hidden away in the rugged mountains of North Korea are the political prison camps, or Kwanliso. These are not just prisons, they're vast, sprawling gulags where generations of so-called enemies of the state are born, worked to death, and die. The state officially denies their existence. But satellite imagery and the harrowing testimonies of the few who have escaped tell a very different story. These camps are a cornerstone of the regime's power, a place to dispose of anyone deemed a threat. The crime of one person can condemn their entire family, parents, children, and grandchildren, to a life of hard labor and starvation under the principle of collective punishment. Life inside the camps is a brutal struggle for survival. Prisoners are considered less than human. They're given starvation-level rations, often just a handful of corn or salt, forcing them to forage for rats, snakes, or insects to supplement their diet. Malnutrition is rampant, and disease is a constant companion. The work is grueling and dangerous, with long hours in mines, logging camps, or agricultural fields, often with no proper tools or safety equipment. Guards rule through terror, inflicting beatings, torture, and public executions for the smallest infractions. The rules are arbitrary and cruel, designed to break the human spirit completely. Children born inside the camps know no other reality. For them, the world is a fenced-in valley of hunger and fear. They're educated only in how to work and how to obey. They are taught that they are there to pay for the sins of their ancestors. They are encouraged to spy on their own families, to report any complaints or escape plans. This system deliberately turns children against their parents, shattering the most fundamental human bonds. Love and loyalty are dangerous luxuries in a place where survival depends on absolute, unthinking obedience to the guards and the state they represent. The psychological toll is as devastating as the physical hardship. The camps are designed to erase a person's identity. Prisoners are stripped of their names and given numbers. They are forced to participate in self-criticism sessions, where they must confess their imagined crimes and accuse others. The constant threat of violence and the ever-present hunger reduce human beings to their most basic instincts. Hope is a dangerous commodity. For most, the only escape from the misery of the Quanliso is death, either from exhaustion, starvation, or a guard's bullet. These camps are the darkest expression of the North Korean regime's absolute control. In North Korea, attempting to escape is not just an illegal act, it's the ultimate betrayal. It's a direct challenge to the authority of the supreme leader and the entire political system. The state treats defectors as traitors of the highest order. The consequences for being caught are swift and severe, designed to serve as a terrifying example to anyone else who might dream of freedom. There is no trial in the sense that the outside world understands it. The punishment is predetermined. For the captured defector, the best they can hope for is a long sentence of hard labor. The worst is immediate execution. The danger doesn't end with the individual. North Korea practices a system of collective punishment, a policy that holds entire families responsible for the actions of one member. If a person successfully escapes, their relatives left behind often pay the price. Family members can be forcibly relocated to impoverished rural areas, lose their jobs, or be sent to political prison camps. This policy creates an agonizing dilemma for potential defectors. The desire for freedom is weighed against the certain suffering of their loved ones. It's a cruel and effective tool of control, turning family bonds into chains that tie people to the regime. Those who are caught and repatriated from China face a particularly grim fate. They are subjected to intense interrogation, often involving brutal torture, to extract information about their escape route and anyone who helped them. The authorities are especially interested in whether the defector had any contact with South Koreans or Christian missionaries, as this is considered espionage. Based on these interrogations, punishments are handed down. Some are sent to re-education camps, which are essentially hard labor prisons. Others, especially those deemed to have been polluted by outside influences, are sent to the harshest political prison camps, the Quanliso, from which there is almost no chance of release. The public nature of punishment is a key part of the state's strategy. Public executions are still carried out in North Korea, especially in areas near the border with China. People from surrounding towns and villages are sometimes forced to attend. They are made to watch as the condemned are tied to a post and shot. The message is clear and unambiguous. This is what happens to traitors. This is the price of dreaming of another world. The fear instilled by these brutal spectacles is a powerful deterrent, meant to crush the spirit of resistance and ensure that the thought of escape remains a terrifying, almost unthinkable prospect for the vast majority of the population. For the vast majority of North Koreans who dare to escape, the journey begins at the country's northern border. The Tumen and Yalu rivers form the natural boundary with China. These rivers are the first and most immediate obstacle. In the summer, the currents can be strong and treacherous. In the winter, the ice can be thin and unstable. Border guards patrol the riverbanks, under orders to shoot anyone they see trying to cross. Many would-be defectors drown in the dark waters, or are shot before they can even reach the other side. Crossing the river is a life-or-death gamble taken in the dead of night, a desperate first step into an unknown world. Reaching China does not mean safety, it means trading one kind of danger for another. China is North Korea's most important ally, and it does not recognize North Korean defectors as refugees. Instead, it considers them illegal economic migrants. Under a bilateral agreement with Pyongyang, Chinese authorities are obligated to arrest and repatriate any North Koreans they find. This policy forces defectors to live in the shadows, constantly hiding from police and informants. They are fugitives in a foreign land, unable to speak the language, with no legal rights and no one to turn to for help. The fear of being caught and sent back is a constant, gnawing presence. Life in hiding in China is precarious and often brutal. Without legal status, defectors cannot find legitimate work. Many are forced into exploitative situations just to survive. Men often end up working in dangerous, low-paying jobs in construction or agriculture, where they can be cheated or reported to the authorities by their employers. Women are particularly vulnerable. Many fall victim to human traffickers who promise them safety or a job, only to sell them as brides to Chinese men in rural areas, or force them into prostitution. They live as prisoners in their new homes, their hopes for freedom replaced by a new form of captivity. The journey through China is a long and terrifying odyssey. The goal for most defectors is to reach a third country, often in Southeast Asia, where they can seek asylum at a South Korean embassy or consulate. This involves traveling thousands of miles across the length of China, a journey that can take months or even years. They must navigate a network of safe houses and rely on brokers or missionaries, never really knowing who to trust. They travel by bus, train, or on foot, always looking over their shoulder, always one step away from being arrested and sent back to the nightmare they fled. Every day is a test of endurance and nerve. The Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ, is honestly the most heavily fortified border on Earth. It's a 4-kilometer-wide, 250-kilometer-long scar that cuts right across the Korean peninsula, separating North and South Korea. On paper, it might seem like the most direct route to freedom, but in reality it's, well, a death trap. The zone is lined with fences topped with razor wire, monitored by watchtowers, and, filled with millions of landmines. Both sides have soldiers in a constant state of high alert, with orders to shoot on sight. The tension here is just, absolutely palpable. For a North Korean to even approach the DMZ is to invite suspicion and, more often than not, likely death from their own side. Escaping through the DMZ is almost impossible. The few who have succeeded are legendary exceptions, often soldiers who were already stationed near the border and had intimate knowledge of the terrain and patrol schedules. For a civilian, the attempt would be, well, suicidal. The North Korean side of the border is a multi-layered security zone. There are electric fences, listening posts, and just countless checkpoints. One must first get through these layers of North Korean security before even reaching the northern boundary of the DMZ. The chances of doing so undetected are, honestly, infinitesimally small. The landscape itself is a weapon, designed to kill anyone who dares to cross it. The journey across the DMZ is a walk through a minefield, both literally and figuratively. The land has been largely untouched by humans for over 70 years, and nature has, reclaimed it. But beneath the lush vegetation lie hidden explosives. A single misstep can be fatal. Soldiers who have defected this way have described crawling on their hands and knees for hours, probing the ground ahead of them, their senses on high alert for the slightest sound or movement. They must evade thermal imaging cameras, motion sensors, and of course the watchful eyes of soldiers on both sides of the border. It's a journey that requires immense courage, luck, and a deep understanding of military protocols. Despite the astronomical odds, a handful of soldiers have made the desperate run. Their stories are dramatic and harrowing. One soldier in 2017 drove a jeep at high speed towards the border, then ran across the line of demarcation under a hail of bullets from his former comrades. He was hit multiple times but survived, collapsing on the South Korean side. Such events are incredibly rare. They serve as a stark reminder of the desperation that drives people to take such extreme risks. For most North Koreans, the DMZ isn't a path to freedom. It's a symbol of their country's division and a deadly barrier that makes escape to the south a near impossibility. For North Koreans fleeing through China, brokers are a necessary evil. These individuals, often of mixed Korean-Chinese descent, operate in the shadows, promising to guide defectors to safety for a price. Some are genuinely trying to help, motivated by a sense of duty or a connection to their Korean heritage. They run secret networks of safe houses and transportation routes, risking their own safety to help others. However, the world of human smuggling is murky and dangerous. For every well-intentioned guide, there are many more who are simply criminals looking to profit from human desperation. Defectors must place their lives in the hands of complete strangers, with no way of knowing their true intentions. The cost of escape is exorbitant. Brokers can charge thousands of dollars per person to facilitate the journey from the Chinese border to a safe third country like Thailand or Laos. Most North Koreans do not have this kind of money. They often rely on relatives who have already defected to South Korea to wire the funds, or they go into debt to the brokers themselves. This debt can become a form of bondage. If they cannot pay, brokers may hold them captive, threaten them, or sell them to others to recoup their costs. The defector, already in a vulnerable position, becomes a commodity to be bought and sold. Women and girls are especially at risk of exploitation by traffickers. The demand for North Korean women as brides in rural China, where there is a significant gender imbalance, has created a lucrative market. Traffickers prey on female defectors, promising them safety and a new life. Instead, they sell them for a few $1,000s to Chinese men. These women often find themselves in situations of domestic servitude and abuse, their passports and identities controlled by their new husbands. They are isolated, unable to speak the language, and live in constant fear of being reported to the police and repatriated. Their escape from North Korea leads them into a different kind of prison, Even when the journey is successful, the threat of betrayal looms large. The high price of escape creates a perverse incentive for brokers to cheat or abandon their clients. Some will take the money and disappear, leaving the defectors stranded in a dangerous and unfamiliar place. Others might lead a group part of the way and then sell them out to the Chinese authorities to collect a reward. The entire journey is a high-stakes gamble, a desperate trust exercise where the wrong choice can lead directly back to a North Korean prison camp or a life of exploitation. The path to freedom is lined with predators who see human suffering as a business opportunity. Every person who escapes North Korea carries a story of immense bravery and profound loss. Take the case of Hyun Seo Lee. She grew up believing North Korea was the greatest country on earth. But during the famine of the 1990s, she witnessed public executions and saw starving bodies in the streets. At 17, she crossed the frozen Tumen River into China out of simple curiosity, thinking she would be back in a few days. That decision led to a decade of living in hiding, constantly changing her identity to evade Chinese authorities. Her journey was one of terror and loneliness, but she eventually made it to South Korea. Then she risked everything again by going back to the border to guide her own mother and brother to freedom. Then there is the incredible story of Shin Dong-hyuk. He is one of the very few people known to have been born in a political prison camp and escaped. He was raised in Camp 14, a total control zone where prisoners were considered subhuman. He was taught that his only purpose was to work, obey, and inform on others, including his own family. He knew nothing of the outside world, of love, or of kindness. He escaped at the age of 23, driven not by a desire for political freedom, which he didn't understand, but by the promise of a full meal. His harrowing journey over a high-voltage fence, which severely burned him, and through the frozen landscape is a testament to the raw, primal instinct to survive against all odds. Not all escape stories end in freedom. Many are tales of tragedy and heartbreak. Consider the family who tried to cross the Tumen River together. The father carried one child, the mother another. In the darkness and the fast-moving current, the mother slipped. The water swept her and the child away before the father's eyes. He made it to the Chinese shore with his other child, but he had to leave half his family behind in the cold, dark river. These are the choices people are forced to make. These stories, often untold and unheard, highlight the immense human cost of the North Korean regime. They are not just statistics, they are shattered families and lost lives. The stories of soldiers who defect across the DMZ are equally dramatic. Oh Chong-song's 2017 dash across the border under a hail of gunfire captured the world's attention. He was shot 5 times by his former comrades, but was rescued by South Korean soldiers. His doctors later discovered he was riddled with parasites and suffering from severe malnutrition, a shocking insight into the conditions even within the North Korean military. These individual accounts, whether of civilians fleeing through China or soldiers running across the DMZ, put a human face on the statistics. They are powerful reminders of the desperation and courage that fuel the desire to escape the world's most repressive state. What drives a person to risk torture, execution, and the endangerment of their family for a chance at freedom? The answer is hope. It is a powerful, resilient force that can survive even in the most oppressive environments. For some, it is a slow-burning ember sparked by a smuggled radio broadcast or a foreign DVD. For others, it is a sudden fire ignited by a personal tragedy, watching a family member starve or be dragged away by state security. This hope is not necessarily for democracy or political ideals, which are abstract concepts in North Korea. It is a more fundamental hope. The hope for a life where you are not always hungry, not always afraid, and can make basic choices for yourself. This hope is often fueled by small cracks in the state's wall of information. Despite the government's best efforts, outside information is seeping into North Korea. Smuggled USB drives and SD cards containing South Korean television dramas, movies, and music are a hot commodity on the black markets. These dramas depict a world of abundance, romance, and personal freedom that is unimaginable to most North Koreans. They show people driving their own cars, choosing their own careers, and speaking their minds without fear. This glimpse of a different reality plants a seed of doubt and desire. It makes people question the propaganda they have been fed their entire lives. The human spirit has a natural desire for dignity. In North Korea, the state strips that dignity away. The Songbun system tells you that you are worthless because of your ancestors. The constant surveillance tells you that you cannot be trusted. The public distribution system uses food to enforce obedience. The decision to escape is a profound act of reclaiming that dignity. It is a declaration that one's life has value, that one deserves more than to be a cog in the state's machine. It is a refusal to accept a fate of starvation and servitude. This powerful inner drive for self-worth can become stronger than the fear of punishment. Ultimately, the motivation to escape is a testament to the enduring power of the human will. It is the belief that a better life is possible, even if the path to it is fraught with unimaginable danger. It is the hope of being reunited with family members who have already escaped. It is the dream of providing a future for one's children that is free from hunger and terror. This hope, passed in whispers from one person to another, smuggled across borders on a USB drive, or born from individual suffering, is the single greatest threat to the North Korean regime. It is the reason that, despite all the risks, people will continue to run towards the light. The journey to freedom does not end upon arrival in South Korea. The challenges of adapting to a new life are immense. Defectors must contend with a fast-paced, hyper-competitive capitalist society that is utterly alien to them. They struggle with the language as decades of separation have created significant differences in dialect and vocabulary. They often face prejudice and discrimination from South Koreans who view them with suspicion or pity. Many suffer from deep psychological trauma, including PTSD, from their experiences in North Korea and during their escape. The freedom they risked everything for can be disorienting and lonely. Despite these hardships, the dream of a better life persists. It is a dream powerful enough to make people walk across a continent, hide in fear for years, and trust their lives to strangers. The number of defectors reaching South Korea has fluctuated over the years, often depending on the level of border security in North Korea and China, but the flow has never stopped completely. For every person who makes it out, there are countless others back in the north who harbor the same dream. They wait for an opportunity, for a moment when the risks seem worth the potential reward of a life with dignity. The international community plays a role, however limited, in keeping this dream alive. Human rights organizations work to document the abuses of the North Korean regime and provide support to defectors. Activist groups, many run by defectors themselves, smuggle information back into North Korea, hoping to awaken the minds of those trapped inside. While governments and international bodies are often cautious in their approach, the consistent condemnation of North Korea's human rights record sends a message to the people that they are not forgotten. It reinforces the idea that the way they are forced to live is not normal and not right. In the end, the story of escaping North Korea is a story of impossible choices and incredible resilience. It is a stark illustration of the lengths to which human beings will go to be free. As long as the Kim regime rules through terror, starvation, and absolute control, its people will continue to look towards the border. They will risk the river, the mountains, and the guns of the guards. They will run from the darkness, chasing the faint, distant light of a world where they can be more than just a survivor, a world where they can simply live. The dream of freedom, once sparked, is not easily extinguished.